I pulled a towel out of my own washing machine last month, and it smelled worse coming out than it did going in. That's not supposed to happen. That's the machine telling on itself. So I bought 10 different odor removers. Tablets, powders, liquids, one of those weird foaming pucks somebody's grandmother swears by on Amazon. I ran every single one through the same machine, the same cycle, the same load, no shortcuts. I wanted to know which ones actually did something and which ones were just perfumed chalk in a box. 6 of them did almost nothing. 2 of them made the smell worse for the first 24 hours. Only one actually got down into the gasket and killed what was living there, and it wasn't the one with the biggest logo on the front. I've been pulling gunk out of machines for over 20 years. My grandfather ran a janitorial route before me, my dad after him, and I grew up thinking a dirty washing machine was just something you lived with. It's not. If your clothes smell sour after a wash, the machine is sick, not the detergent. And most of what's sold to fix that smell doesn't touch the actual problem. Let me show you what I found. The problem. Here's the scenario, and if you own a front-load washer built in the last 10 years, you already know it. You do a normal load, towels, gym clothes, whatever, and everything comes out clean-looking. No stains, no visible dirt, but when you pull it close to your face, there's this sour, almost swampy smell hanging on the fabric. Sometimes it's faint, sometimes it smells like the inside of a gym bag that got left in a hot car. Most people's first move is to blame the detergent. They switch brands, they add more fabric softener. Neither one fixes it because the smell isn't coming from the clothes. It's coming from the machine itself, and it's been building for months, sometimes years, before anyone notices. I've been called out to apartment buildings, laundromats, and plenty of private homes where the homeowner swears the machine is brand new, and it's 3 years old with a smell that could clear a room. The reason nobody catches it early is that the smell doesn't show up every load. It comes and goes depending on humidity, how long the door's been shut, whether the last load sat wet in the drum overnight. So people write it off as a one-time thing. Oh, I must have left towels in there too long. Then it happens again the next week and the week after that, until it's just part of the routine. Pull the load, sniff it, decide if it needs a rewash. By the time someone actually searches for a fix, the odor's usually deep enough that a bottle of vinegar poured in during a cycle barely makes a dent. That's the point where people start buying odor removers off the shelf, hoping one of them is the magic bullet. That's exactly the situation I wanted to recreate for this test. Not a machine I deep cleaned for the camera, but one that had been running real loads for months with zero maintenance, the way most people actually use theirs. Why it happens. Front-load washers get blamed for this more than top-loaders, and there's a real reason for that, not just internet folklore. The rubber gasket around the door, the boot we call it in the trade, creates a seal that traps water every single cycle. Top-loaders don't have that seal. Water drains and the tub is more or less exposed to open air. Front-loaders lock in moisture behind that rubber lip, and that's where the trouble starts. Every wash cycle leaves a thin film behind. It's not just detergent residue, it's a mix of fabric softener, dead skin cells, body oil, lint, and minerals from your water supply, especially if you're on well water or a municipal supply with hard water. That film coats the underside of the gasket, the drum holes, and the drain pump area. On its own, a little film isn't a big deal. The problem is what happens when you shut the door right after a wash and walk away, which is what almost everybody does. A washing machine drum, sealed up wet and dark, is close to a perfect environment for mold and bacteria. I've pulled gaskets back on machines and found black mold growing in a ring you can't see unless you physically fold the rubber outward. It hides behind the lip. That's not something odor spray or a wipe down touches. It's growing in a spot most people don't even know exists on their own machine. Add to that the shift towards cold water washing and high-efficiency detergent. Both are good for your energy bill and your clothes, but they're bad news for a machine's self-cleaning ability. Hot water used to naturally sanitize the drum during a wash. Cold water doesn't do that, and HE detergent is engineered to use less soap and produce fewer suds, which sounds great until you realize thicker, sudsier, old-style detergent used to physically rinse more residue out with it. Less suds means more film left behind, cycle after cycle. Then there's the drain pump filter, the part almost nobody knows they have. It's usually behind a small panel at the bottom front of the machine. That filter catches hair, coins, tissue paper, and fine debris before it can clog the pump. If it's never been emptied, and on most machines I inspect, never has, you've got a pocket of stagnant, dirty water sitting at the bottom of your machine at all times. That water doesn't drain out with the rest. It just sits there, breeding whatever's going to breed, and every cycle stirs it slightly and pushes a little of that smell back up into the drum. So you've really got three things stacking on top of each other: a gasket sealing in moisture, cold cycles that don't sanitize, and a drain filter nobody's ever touched. None of those are solved by throwing a scented tablet in and running a rinse cycle. That's treating the symptom, not the source. And that's exactly why most of what I tested in this video failed, because most of these products are built to mask a smell, not eliminate what's producing it. But there's one step almost every single odor remover on the market skips completely, and it's the one that actually determines whether the smell comes back in a week or stays gone for months. I'll get to that. Common mistakes. Mistake 1, running the clean cycle and assuming that's a deep clean. Almost every modern washer has a self-clean or tub clean setting, and almost every manufacturer manual tells you to use it monthly. The problem is what that cycle actually does. It's a longer wash with hotter water and an extended spin, sometimes with an extra rinse. It's designed to flush loose residue out of the drum and pump system. What it is not designed to do is physically disturb mold that's colonized inside the gasket folds or behind rubber seams. Water flows past that mold, it doesn't scrub it. I've run the self-clean cycle on machines with visible black buildup in the gasket, checked right after, and the mold's still sitting there, untouched, because water pressure alone doesn't break a biofilm loose. You need physical agitation or a strong enough chemical contact to lift it off the rubber. A rinse cycle gives you neither. Mistake 2, pouring vinegar, bleach, or baking soda straight into the drum and calling it a treatment. This one's popular because it's cheap and it sounds like a real solution. It's got that natural remedy appeal. Vinegar is genuinely useful for breaking down mineral scale and mild residue, but poured straight into an empty drum with the door shut for a cycle, it gets diluted almost instantly by the fill water and rinsed away before it has real contact time with the areas that need it most, like the underside of the gasket. Vinegar needs direct contact and a little time to work, not a 5-minute swim through a wash cycle. Bleach is worse, and this is where I see people actually damage their machines. Bleach kills surface mold on contact, which feels satisfying, but it does nothing for mold roots embedded in rubber, and repeated bleach use breaks down the gasket material itself over time, making it more porous and, ironically, easier for mold to grip onto in the future. I've replaced gaskets on machines under 5 years old specifically because the owner was bleaching the drum every week, trying to fight a smell that kept coming back stronger. They were speeding up the exact problem they were trying to solve. Baking soda by itself is basically inert in this context. It's a mild abrasive and a mild odor absorber, and that's it. It doesn't break down biofilm, it doesn't sanitize, and used alone in a wash cycle, it mostly just goes down the drain doing very little. It works fine as an odor absorber in a fridge because it sits in a closed space and slowly pulls odor molecules out of stagnant air. A washing machine during a cycle is nothing like a closed fridge. There's constant water movement and drainage, so the baking soda barely gets a chance to do its job before it's flushed. Mistake 3, buying a scented pod or tablet and trusting the smell going away means the problem's gone. This is the trap almost everyone falls into, and honestly, it's the trap the whole odor remover industry is built around. A lot of these products are heavy on fragrance and light on actual active ingredients. You run the cycle, open the door, and it smells like fresh linen or ocean breeze instead of sour mildew. Relief sets in. Problem solved, right? Except fragrance masking and odor elimination are two completely different chemical processes. Masking just means you've added a stronger smell on top of the existing one, and your nose picks up the strongest scent in the room. It doesn't mean the mold or bacteria producing the original smell is dead. Give it 3 to 5 days, let humidity build back up in that sealed drum, and the sour smell creeps back out from under the fragrance, usually a little worse than before, because now you've also added a layer of fragrance residue for bacteria to feed on. I've seen this exact cycle play out with customers who buy a new odor pod every couple weeks because it works great for like 4 days. That's not the product working. That's the product's perfume winning a very short, very temporary fight. This is exactly the pattern I watched play out during testing. Most of what I bought smelled fantastic straight out of the cycle and fell apart within a week. Only one held up past day 5 without any smell creeping back at all. I'll walk you through exactly which ones failed and why, because the failure pattern was almost identical across brands, even the expensive ones. The solution. Before I get into results, I want to walk through the actual method that works, because half of getting this right is technique, not product. I use the same method across every test cycle, so nothing was rigged in favor of one product over another. Stage 1, physical inspection and manual cleaning of the gasket, done first before any product goes in. This is the step almost every commercial product skips, and it's the one that matters most. Fold the rubber gasket outward, all the way around the drum opening. You will find buildup back there, often black, sometimes gray or pink depending on what's growing. Pink residue is usually a bacteria called Serratia marcensis, common in humid bathroom and laundry environments, and it's just as responsible for smell as black mold is. Use a stiff bristled brush, not a sponge. A sponge just smears the film around instead of lifting it. An old toothbrush works for tight folds, and a grout brush works for the wider curve of the seal. Spray down the gasket with hot water and a small amount of dish soap first to cut through the oily film. Scrub in small sections and wipe with a microfiber cloth as you go, so you're actually removing debris, not redistributing it. This takes about 10 minutes if the buildup is bad. Do not skip this step for any product test to be fair, and do not skip it in your own home either, because no bottled product on the market reaches back into that folded rubber lip the way a brush in your hand can. Stage 2. Clear the drain filter. Find the small access panel at the bottom front of the machine. Check your manual if you're not sure, but on most machines, it's a flick-down door a few inches off the floor. Place a shallow towel and container underneath before opening it, because water will come out, sometimes more than you expect. Unscrew the filter cap slowly, let it drain, then pull the filter and clean out whatever's caught in it. I've pulled hair clumps the size of a golf ball out of filters that had clearly never been touched. Rinse it under hot water. Check the small impeller behind it for anything wrapped around it like thread or hair, then reseat it and screw the cap back on snug, not over-tightened. Stage 3, run the actual odor remover product, but with proper contact time. This is where the 10 products came in and where most of them lost. My method, apply or add the product exactly per its instructions, but instead of running a normal quick wash, I ran the hottest, longest cycle the machine offered, and for any product that allowed it, I let it sit in the drum for a soak period before running the cycle rather than starting the wash immediately. A product with active enzymatic or chlorine-based ingredients needs contact time against the surface to actually break down organic material. Rinsing it through fast defeats its own chemistry. Here's what happened with each one. 2 of the drugstore tablet brands, the kind you'll find on an end cap at Walmart, blue and white packaging, marketed mostly on fragrance, showed almost zero difference in the gasket after the cycle. Visually, same residue before and after. These are mostly citric acid and fragrance, good for very light mineral buildup, not mold. I wouldn't recommend either one as a standalone fix. A liquid odor eliminator sold heavily through Amazon reviews, the kind with thousands of 5-star ratings, did cut visible residue by maybe 20% after 2 applications, but the smell returned within 4 days. Its main active ingredient is a mild surfactant, basically industrial-strength soap, and soap alone doesn't kill mold spores, it just loosens surface film temporarily. 3 of the natural brands built around plant-based enzymes performed the worst of the group. Enzymatic cleaners can be excellent for protein-based stains and odors, think pet accidents, sweat, but mold and mineral buildup aren't protein-based, so the enzymes had almost nothing to work on. I want to be clear because enzyme cleaners get recommended a lot online for washing machine odor, and based on what I saw, that recommendation is misapplied here. One powder cleaner from a big box store's private label, the kind in the plain orange tub, actually surprised me. Heavy sodium percarbonate content. That's an oxygen-based bleach, different from chlorine bleach, and it doesn't degrade rubber the way chlorine bleach does. Combined with the manual gasket scrub in stage 1, this one held the smell down for almost 2 full weeks before any hint of it returned, which was the second best result of the group. The best performer, by a real margin, was a chlorine dioxide-based tablet, different chemistry than regular bleach, sold in a smaller specialty brand you won't find on a big shelf display, more of a niche appliance care product. Chlorine dioxide is a genuine broad-spectrum disinfectant used in water treatment plants, and unlike straight bleach, it doesn't break down rubber compounds nearly as aggressively with occasional use. Paired with the manual gasket cleaning and drain filter clearing, this was the only product in the group where I checked back at the 3-week mark and found 0 returning odor and a visibly clean gasket fold. Pro tip, and this is the part almost nobody talks about, after any deep clean or product treatment, leave the door and detergent drawer cracked open between loads, permanently, not just after cleaning. I know it looks messy sitting in a laundry room with the door hanging open, but that airflow is what keeps the drum dry enough that mold can't reestablish itself. Every machine I've serviced that had a chronic, recurring odor problem had one thing in common. The owner always closed the door flush right after the last load. The ones that never had a smell problem, going back to jobs I did 15 years ago, all had one thing in common too. The door stayed cracked. That single habit does more for long-term odor prevention than any product on this list. Run this whole process, gasket scrub, filter clean, proper cycle with real contact time, and door left open after, once a month, and you should never be back at square one wondering why your clean laundry smells like a locker room. So, out of 10 products, 1 genuinely earned its spot on my shelf, most did nothing worth the price tag, and a couple I'd actually avoid using regularly because of what they do to the rubber over time. If you want the exact product I'd actually buy again, or want me to walk through brand names one by one, drop that in the comments and I'll put together a follow-up. I want to hear what's going on with your machine specifically. Is it the smell coming back after a few days, mold you can actually see in the gasket, or something else entirely, like a machine that never drains all the way? Tell me in the comments. I read through those, and a lot of future videos come straight out of what people are dealing with in their own laundry rooms. If this saved you from buying 6 more bottles of something that wasn't going to work, go ahead and subscribe. I've got a full breakdown coming on why your towels specifically hold smell worse than any other fabric in the house, and it's not for the reason most people think. That one's worth watching if towels are your main complaint. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. I'll see you in the next video.